So, hi everyone. I hope that you all are having a really great day and enjoying the snow that we have. So today we're just going to be giving you all a presentation, and as we go along with the presentation, I know my peers would love to see you all's faces, but that's only if you're comfortable. It's not mandatory at all. So I just wanted to warmly welcome everyone to this year's Healing City Summit. And this one is brought to you by Charm Voices of Baltimore Youth. And the workshop today is entitled Writing as a Healing Practice. So my name is Kendra Bryant, and I am a member of Charm Editorial Board and also a current senior at Baltimore City College High School. Charm is a literary organization founded off the belief that kids like me and you voices matter. Our mission is to help young people develop as writers and amplify their own voices. So, to start everything off and get to know everyone in this call a little bit better, we're going to start off with an icebreaker. And the directions are to state your name and also to make sure that you list an adjective, but not only does the adjective have to clearly give a description about you, but it has to start with the same letter as your first name. So I would highly suggest to put yours in the chat, or if you want to quickly come off mute and share out loud, you can. And I'm just going to start off with mine, and mine is Kind Kendra. So feel free to put it in the chat or take yourself off mute and share with the rest of us.
I'll go, Kendra. I'm Autumn Carr. I'm a school counselor at City College, and this pandemic has shown me that I am adaptable Autumn.
I can go next. So, hi everybody. I am another youth editor on the editorial board with Charm. My name is Olivia, and my adjective is going to be outgoing Olivia.
Hi, I'm a Maya, and I'm another editor on the board, and I'm going to say my adjective is going to be ambitious Amaya.
Hi, my name is Kaori, and I'm also on the board. For my adjective, I think it would be kooky Kaori.
So if anyone else would like to share, then you can please feel free to continue to put things in the chat. And we just hope that you are coming with an open mind, open heart today. And I'm going to pass it over to my peer, Ariel.
So Ariel is not yet here. I think she's on her way to jump in the Zoom, but this is just our agenda for the session. I won't read it to you, but we wanted to kind of make the most of our 45 minutes together, and just share that we have a kind of our end product, if you will, with this session is that everybody leaves the session with at least a draft of something that they're working on writing. We're going to spend a little bit of time reading a poem that's been published in Charm magazine, that our students have produced, and then we'll hopefully take some inspiration from that and write our own version. So and just because I have it handy, these are some examples of Charm. We have published, as Kendra mentioned, we published student writing here in Baltimore for the past 7 years, including many of your presenters today. So I'll hand it to Kaori.
Okay, hi, my name's Kaori. So before we get ready to create, I think it would be good if we took a minute just to calm ourselves and to get ourselves ready. So can everyone close their eyes and think about something or a sound or an image that's calming to them? If you would like, you can repeat the word peace in your mind as an affirmation. I will take 1 minute to meditate, and that time is starting now. Okay, guys, so our minute is up. I'll be passing it on to Amaya for the poem.
All right, so right now we're gonna read a poem from Jose, and it's called Bosco, North Carolina. And in the next slide, you can take a brief moment to read the poem that was published by Jose, and then we'll discuss.
And actually, Ariel is here, and I know she was going to read it, so we'll pass it to her.
Hello, I'm Ariel. I'll be reading the poem. Summer is always the best. Everyone is outside, little kids running around the place, playing tag. The older kids inside texting or playing soccer in the field. Las mujeres are inside spreading chismes. Meanwhile, los borrachos are outside drinking beer and cooking the food. Once the food is ready, everyone sits down and you see tables filled with food. There's arroz and frijoles and carne asada and choros and nopales and pollo and carne de res and corn. And a plate that contains cebolla, cilantro, robon, and limon. And they have like 40 different types of salsa. To top it off, there's a plate of pasta with rice and beans and tomatoes and tomatoes
Ariel, I think we lost you for a second.
Here is bye, gracias, and vengan mañana. Once everyone leaves, I go by the window and look up at the stars, without being disturbed by cars, sirens, and shouting, unless my dad is drunk. He snores really loud, and when I say really loud, I mean it's worse than a dog and a baby crying at the same time.
All right, Ariel. Well, thanks, Ariel, for reading this wonderful poem. So now I want you guys to basically just say how you feel about the poem. Like, what did you see? Could you relate to it? And after, you can just put it in the chat, or you can come off mute and we'll just discuss for a little bit. And for me, I really like how he used a lot of imagery. I can see what he was talking about, and like I can see the foods because I've seen those foods before. And it was just a lot of like imagery, and it made me feel like I was there with him as he talked about the food. So if you like, you can come off mute, or you can put it in the chat and I can read off the chat.
I'll share one thing that I do like about the poem is that once again, I feel like I've already stated this in on previous readings of it, but it really just feels like I'm almost there. His level of imagery in the poem is really good, and also as he's doing the like repetition of Anne to go on and on about the different things that he sees, like while he's there, it just allows me to see that he's also paying a strong amount to detail. And I might write the poem, well, my own version of the poem. Mine's personally would most likely be shorter in a way, just because sometimes when you're writing, you don't even pay as much attention. So it's really helpful to see an example like this and see how someone is really putting a lot of time into watching their surroundings and sharing it with us.
I agree with Kendra. Sorry if you guys can hear the cars outside, but I agree with Kendra. I think it's really cool how like the level of detail that's in this poem along with the imagery, as both Kendra and Amaya both said. I think that my favorite thing about the poem is how he uses Spanglish, how he uses like Spanish and English, and it makes it a lot more personal to him. And it makes it feel like I guess like I'm talking to him or like I know him, even though I've just like read through the poem a few times and like listened to it and I don't know the author like personally, but because of the like the depth of it and the level of detail that he adds in it makes it feel like I know him personally.
And I'll just read off of Ron Williams' comment that he said in the chat. He said that Jose does a good job of setting up the scene, that the juxtaposition of the dad makes the scene more profound, which is a really good observation. I really like how you put that.
There's something about food in poems that like just if you were to say like we had dinner or we had a cookout, but the fact that he named all these foods, like Kendra said, you really feel like you're there and you can and taste them and smell them and you know hear the people there. It's just it's really evocative. The fact that he just takes the time to name those.
Well, thank you guys for who decided to share and how they felt about the poem. Now I'm going to leave you with a short question so we can go on to actually writing your own poem like Jose. I want to ask you guys, how might you write your own version of this poem? It's basically just the rhetorical question for you to think about. So you don't have to share it, but it's just something to help you guys with your poem when we're about to write. Now I'll pass it on to Olivia so we can talk about the poem and the prompts.
Okay, hi everybody. Thank you, Amaya. So right now we're actually going to, this is like the beginning of the interactive portion. So we're gonna start our little writing activity based on the model poem that was just shared. So I have some questions for you guys. So first we're gonna kind of, like feel free to share in the chat or unmute yourself like we've been doing. And so these are just kind of like some brainstorming questions to kind of get you starting to figure out what you want to write about and if you want to kind of send it in to be published. But we're going to start with if anybody can think about their own event or like point in time that brings them peace, like how the author Jose of the other poem, he chose a cookout with his family to write about. So if anybody has something similar, they can have like a holiday or just like a place or a dinner or even a person that brings them peace. If anybody wants to share it or put it in the chat, we can like talk about it or just brainstorm for a minute or two, and then we'll move on to the next question. Okay, so Kimmy said being in nature. I agree. I was gonna say that my place that brings me peace, yes, hikes, walks, and biking. I was gonna say being in nature, being surrounded by trees and watching the sunset. That makes me so happy. That is like my like peaceful place. I love watching the sunset. In the chat, Kendra just said an event that brings me peace is being with my parents watching movies on a Friday. and how it's become their thing. That's so cute. I love that. Um, okay, so moving on and kind of like going off of what Kendra said, a time or place being with people you love for like friends or family that brings you peace. If anybody has a time like that, that might have been different from like an event that brought them peace. Okay, my bad. I'm just reading the chat, but I don't know if I'm gonna pronounce this right, but Catrice said, I agree with Kim, you love to walk around and hike at the local park or arboretum. And Madison said, when I go skating, I'm really able to get out of my head and slow down the rushing. Jaden said late night drives. And Rod said when I climb to the peak of a Pennsylvania mountain. Oh, that's so cool. Mountain climbing sounds like so much fun. So if anybody kind of has an idea that they just want to go and run with and start writing, feel free. If any of these things kind of like spark your brain to start wanting to write a poem or a story or anything like that. But if not, we can keep on going through the questions. So the next one is, how does your culture or family traditions bring you peace? So if anybody has any like special family gatherings or anything like that. Um, Um, okay, so I'm gonna read through the chat, but Madison said cooking with my family and playing cards really brings us together. And then, oh, Ron asked a question. Ron said your biological family or the family you cultivate. I feel like that's really up to you. Because this is all, I mean, writing is really personal, and especially the way that we're using writing like now as a healing practice. Whatever just kind of draws you the most, like as a family, whether it's your biological family or the family that you create. Singing hymns with my cousins and my aunt brings me tremendous peace. There's a unity there. That's so cool. I think there's a sense of peace and joy in being together, like a birthday party in pre-COVID times. Not really a tradition, but just an event, oddly enough, a celebration of someone's life, like wakes or funerals, brings me an unusual sense of peace. The combination of death and life and seeing people you haven't seen in a long time. That's a really good like image. Yeah. And then Catrice also said cooking, preparing, and eating our Southern foods and Caribbean foods to celebrate our heritages is something very unique for us. And Kendra agreed with Kimmy, saying everyone comes together when putting someone to rest. It's comforting. So yeah, now just kind of like broadening it. If anybody has anything else that's on their heart or mind related to the previous poem or not, feel free to share it or just kind of start writing. And also, yes, I agree with Ariel. These would all make fantastic poems for sure. I think people have some really good ideas that could make some really cool poems. I'm excited to read them if anybody submits them. Okay, my bad. But now we're just gonna take a few minutes to kind of just write, and then yeah, like what Miss Whitney said in the chat, we're gonna take 8 minutes to write, and then if you'd like to, you can share. But this is just gonna be kind of quiet or silent writing time. But if you feel moved to share, feel free to unmute yourself or say something in the chat. Okay. Hey everybody. So it is now 12:28 and we're gonna kind of resume and bring it back together. And I'm about to pass it on to Kaori for sharing if anybody wants to share. And this isn't the end of your time working on it. You can still totally work on your pieces individually. This is the end of just like work time in our workshop because we only have a limited amount of time. But thank you everybody for your time. And now I'm gonna pass it to Kaori.
Hi guys. So now we're moving on to sharing and feedback. So the way feedback is going to work in this workshop is, um, so one person is going to present their poem. We'll only be selecting one person from the audience to give their opinion on said poem. When you give feedback, you should say one thing that you really liked, and you should ask to give a critique. So for instance, if Amaya wrote a poem and I was giving her feedback, I would be like, I really liked your poem. I love the use of imagery within it. Can I give a critique on your word choice? If she says yes, I'd be able to move on with the critique. If she said no, we would just go on to the next person. The reason why we do that is sometimes people know where their weak points are, and some people might find it like annoying to hear the same thing or the same critique over and over again when they know that there's something wrong with it. So that's just a way that we're doing it for this workshop. We only have enough time to hear from 4 poems. So who wants to go first?
I will.
Okay. Um, yeah, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. This is called Mountain Bliss. Placing foot before foot upon rocks and soil, peering to a sky opening in green lush peaks over rippling blue water, pausing to oxygenate from old trees speaking, be still, son. Feeling sweat trickle like wisdom from 1,000 years, I am grateful to be here. I look backward and hear mother tells me you have been away too long. The persistent burdens of city life melted away. I am earth buoyant in this hemisphere, the mountain I climb lifting me as creatures commune and plants whistle and embrace every piece of electric silence. Someday I will conquer my darkness fear and sleep in this bed. I arrive at the peak and my limbs shake with triumph and gratitude. I prostrate upon the giant native rocks and meditate. I want to open my skeleton and feel all that is about me, so I will always feel at peace.
I
Thank you.
really like that. That was good. Okay, here's how feedback's gonna work. If possible, um, I'm gonna skim through. You see at the bottom, if you're using Zoom, there's like something that says reactions. If you have feedback to give, can you raise your hand? And if you can't find it, it's okay to just interject.
I was gonna give feedback, but I really don't have anything like any critiques. I don't know if that's okay, but I really just enjoyed the imagery that you were creating. But I also really liked like the tone in your voice and just how you were like narrating your own poem. I don't know. I think it just added a little bit more, not suspense, but more of a feel and like more of a showing the passion or interest in the place that you were describing. I just really liked it.
Okay, so that was one piece, and a lot of people wrote nice things in the chat too. Does anybody else want to volunteer to go next? Um,
I wouldn't mind. I can go.
Okay.
Okay. So surprisingly, I wrote mine about school just because I've been missing school a lot lately, and when I reflect on it, it really did somewhat give me peace just because of my peers. So I said, I wrote, I remember it like yesterday, my first button up, but now I'm choosing cap and gowns while I'm really growing up. The hallway's full of many peers that became like family quick. They love and fight like siblings while we're really growing up. Lunch wasn't made for eating, it was mouthful of laughter. Laughter that could turn a frown upside down while we're really growing up. From full halls that made me cheer to empty halls and now masks have appeared, I never thought the next 4 years would fly by as quick as reindeers. Far apart but not alone, we're really growing up. Oh no. And it's just like a reflection, just the fact that we're really growing up, and the past 4 years or 3 years have really flown by really quick, and I feel like school did give me a sense of peace now that I'm without it.
Okay, Kendra, that was really good. Put it in and say it out loud verbally.
I don't really have a critique because I really loved it, but I love how you use repetition because repetition is also a thing that really drives home a poem. So yeah, I just really love that part.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was one. We have room for two more poems. Would anybody like to share?
I'd be happy to read.
Okay, thank you. The floor is yours.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name's Catrice. And I'll start reading. When we all come together, someone is always laughing too loud. Cackles boiling over the radio's static hiss, the chatter of the children and the patter of small feet toddling, gaining balance. In the spaces lit well and packed deep, food barely fits the table. Banquets ready for feasting, selling, banquets ready for feasting, spilling over the edges, save for the fancy paper plates with the blue flowers and color-coordinated napkins triangle bent latticed on the table, ready to wipe someone's barbecue mouth. Smoked pulled pork beef, steaks wafting seared with grilled marks and juices running, curry goat hunks piled high, callaloo ready for scooping, fried fish sizzles and Cousin P yells for us to bring more, thawing from the freezer. An elder quietly sitting, smiling, nodding, regal and knowing. We all love them. And somebody done broke out into an argument over spades and the aluminum foil making that tinny rip sound as someone readies their take-home plate, putting too many boiled green bananas, too many plantains on the edges with pie, mac cheese, sure they'll defy gravity. But what we know for sure, is that when we all come together, someone is always laughing. Someone is always laughing. Thank you.
Yes, okay. I love that poem. I loved all of the poems. Does anyone have any feedback that they'd like to give? You can type it in the chat, but we have time for someone to say it verbally.
Yes, I would like to contribute. First of all, that poem made me want to stop my vegan diet for a day. All those delicious meat dishes. But I think it was beautiful the way you layered. It's like the more it's almost like you're walking into the room, and the more that you experience who's in the room and the table, the more layered it becomes, you know, so that you're incorporating the people in it, the elder, that becomes that very rich tradition of the elder being in the home with the family. And so it's just, I just love the way you built the poem and then brought the laughter at the end, which kind of encapsulates and brings back to full circle this whole image of this gathering. So I thought it was beautiful.
Many thanks. Thank you, Ron.
Okay, so we have room for, I believe, Miss Whitney, do we still have time left?
We have about 6 minutes. So we could have a short one, or we could jump to the end and talk about connecting and submissions. It's up to you all.
I have a really short one that I could share.
Go on, Ariel.
Okay, so this one is about a memory that I have from middle school because I used to go to Patterson Park a lot, so it's called Patterson Park. The park is huge. The smell is just as big. I walk along the many paths to different parts of the park. The green grass overflowing over hillsides and the big field that holds memories of soccer games. I rush to the playground. My friends and I call it the castle. We sit and talk and laugh the sun away. The world gets fast and the sky blends into one shade of blue as I spin around and round. The duck pond full of life, the quack of ducks, the croak of frogs, the buzz of dragonflies, the splash of water. I close my eyes to see. Thank you.
Okay, I really like that one. I think because of the limited time, actually, no, if you have verbal feedback you want to give out, you can give it. Or if not, you can just type it in the chat.
That was a very beautiful narrative poem. It was very vivid, and it was full of sensory images. I think it was very well done.
So to close things off, I just wanted to say that I hope everyone really enjoyed themselves and left with a sense of somewhat a little bit more creative knowledge and inspiration to write on their own time. And if you do feel the need or would like to submit something that you already have or something that you wrote today or continue working on something and submit it to Charm, we're always open to definitely having submissions sent. And here on the PowerPoint, it states, where you can actually submit your submissions, your poem submissions. And also make sure to follow us on Instagram at Charm Lit Mag. And that's also listed right there. We recently have added something new to the Charm franchise, and we now have merch. And it's really nice. It's bottles, mugs, t-shirts, and then we also have some new things coming up soon. And there's actually a raffle for the merch. And the three people who submit from this workshop will have the chance to win an item from our merch. And that's exciting because it's really nice looking.